morning. I'm Aditi Deodar. I reside in Pune with my husband and my 14-year-old son. And I have a postgraduate degree in mathematics, industrial mathematics with computer application to be specific. And I have worked in IT for a few years. Then I worked in an NGO as a software consultant, where my job was to transform their manual tools into software. So there I had a very good chance of interacting with domain teams into biodiversity and other areas. And that's how I got actually curious about ecology as a subject. Then in 2012-13, I did a course, a PG diploma in sustainable natural resource management from Ecological Society. And that was a turning point for me, because being a mathematics student, I was actually quite disconnected from nature, because we never had field trips or nothing like biology or geology students have. So till then my work was only behind computers and everything, but that course, that 1 year course was a life changing thing for me. And after that course I started actually seeing things, I would say. And many things that had not bothered me before started bothering me now, and I wanted to do something about it. I wanted to take action, not only keep getting pained or disheartened by the things I was seeing. So two things that I started after this course were, one thing was that, as you know, the condition of rivers in Pune city is really bad. The Mura Mutha rivers in Pune city, they are among top 10 most polluted rivers in our country. And till then, we, of course, we knew this already, but as I said, that was the time when it actually decided that we have to do something about it. So we cannot just keep talking and being helpless or being appalled about that. So that's how we, 4 or 5 friends, came together, and we started an initiative called Jeevit Nadi. So now it is a Section 8 company, Jeevit Nadi Living River Foundation. So we started in 2014. And another thing that bothered me was sight of dry leaves getting burned, because through that course I knew that the dry leaves should go back to the soil, and they would anyway go back to the soil because they are biodegradable. So my thought was, why to burn them off and create pollution? So at that time I just looked at dry leaves, that they are biodegradable, they are not waste, so let them go back to the soil instead of burning. So I started with that. And then in my society premises itself, we have very large monkey biscuit tree. And every year, means it's heaven in summer, but same thing turns a nightmare in winter, because by mid October the leaf fall starts. And that then within a few weeks a large heap gets generated. And till 2016 we used to do the same thing, that the lady who keeps our premises clean, she used to gather them in the heap and used to set fire to it. Then I decided that let's put stop to this practice in my building itself. Let's start from my home. And so I requested that lady, just make a heap, just keep them away, but don't burn them off. And honestly, I was very happy that okay, I have decided something and I have put into practice. And a month or so passed, and a lady came back to me saying that the heap is too large now, and what you are planning to do, because the leaf fall was going on, because there would be more leaves now. So she said, we cannot just keep it like that, what we are planning to do with it. So honestly, I had no idea what to do with it. My thought was not to burn them, but for what we can do about it or anything, I had no idea about it. Then I took to social media for help. Then I drafted a message and shared on all WhatsApp groups where I was a member, that I have so many dry leaves, and what alternatives exist to burning. So I don't want to burn them, but what one can do with all those dry leaves. And in that I got many solutions actually. Some of them was like making biochar out of it and create briquettes and everything. That one response from that actually caught my attention. It was from a lady in Pune, Sujata. So she said that whatever leaves your tree shades, I can accommodate all of them in my garden. That was her response. And she said that every leaf I can take away. So that was something that was quite attractive response, because heap was a big headache for me. So I just actually bought gunny bags from a nearby grocery shop. Then we collected all those leaves in 5 gunny bags and kept them ready. The very next day she came in car and carried those 5 gunny bags. So then that was something where I got curious, that because it was such a headache for me, and this lady had come all the way to collect those dry leaves. So then I got curious exactly what Sujata does with those dry leaves. So I decided to visit her place. And that was again a second turning point, I would say, in my visit to her garden. So when I went to see her garden, so I will provide a background of Sujata here. So Sujata stays in a bungalow society in Pune, and she owns a plot next to her bungalow, and that plot was vacant for many years. So when the construction of other bungalows happened, the builder had used that plot as a dumping ground, so all the construction debris was dumped there. And Sujata belongs to a farmer's family. So when she learned about the pesticides and chemical fertilizers that are used on the crop, she decided that she won't buy vegetables from the market, instead she will cultivate them. So she wanted to cultivate vegetables for her family, her brother, and her brother-in-law's families, for three families. And she wanted to utilize that plot for that purpose. But since there was no organic matter left, because lot of layers of debris was there, so she wanted to create that missing organic matter. And as you know, buying soil is both, means ecologically it's not advisable, and financially it's not feasible also. So she wanted to create that organic matter that was missing in her plot using dry leaves. And really, I will share some photos of a garden. Means it's actually a urban farm. You name any vegetable and it is there. And she has lots of fruits also. So when I visited her garden, it was amazing sight. Actually, she also cultivates a lot of strawberries. Means now strawberry crop is a headache for her, because there's so much produce is there. And so when I looked at her garden, I realized that even if I donated every single leaf from my tree to her, still it was not sufficient for her. So because those 5 gunny bags of leaves, for me it was a very large quantity, but they were so easily accommodated in that plot, and her requirement was much more. So then that was a eye-opener thing, or eureka moment for me, because till then I had just thought that dry leaves is not waste. That was my conclusion. But here I was looking at her garden and could see that dry leaves is such a huge resource, and we were just destroying that resource by burning it off. So after discussion with Sujata, I also interacted with many gardeners in the city. So now in Pune, on footsteps of Bangalore, I would say, there is a movement of grow your own food. So many people are utilizing their vacant terraces for that. So especially for terrace gardeners, they have shared what Sujata had shared, that getting dry leaves was a huge challenge, because for terraces again, means soil was not an option. Also soil is very heavy to carry, also it absorbs water and becomes very heavy. So there also compost made from dry leaves was very easy and feasible to use, because you could easily carry dry leaves to the terrace, and being lighter, it was not endanger structural integrity of the building. So those, for terrace gardeners, dry leaves was an essential thing, and everybody shared that getting dry leaves is a problem. So now actually we all have seen this, seen that from October also we see all of the area around the cities get drowned in layers and layers of dry leaves. So why it was a problem? Because dry leaves are considered waste in our mind, or it's a mindset that it is waste. So wherever there is a heap of dry leaves, people start dumping garbage in that. And so getting dry leaves is not a challenge. Getting clean dry leaves in respectable manner is a challenge, because not everybody is comfortable going by roadside and collecting leaves first thing. And again, the leaves are always mixed with garbage. So getting clean dry leaves was the challenge. And so I knew that I had dry leaves, so I knew that dry leaves exist. And so now I had this newfound thing that okay, there are people who actually want those dry leaves. So it was like economics problem, right? There are people who have dry leaves, and there are people who want dry leaves. So it was supply and demand thing. So only thing missing was that we wanted to connect those people, and we should have some ground rules about exchanging those. So if people who had dry leaves donated those dry leaves to people who wanted dry leaves, so all this problem, at least a proportion of that problem will be solved. And so we initially focused only on the dry leaves that exist in the private areas, so that as to tackle that garbage mixing problem, because the dry leaves that are on the curbside, they still have that challenge where garbage gets mixed with them. But in, at least in my premises, I have control over that, and I can keep dry leaves segregated. So we decided that we will the link was missing, that these both people existed in the same city, only thing there was need to connect them, and I decided that I will become that connecting link, and that's how that BrownLeaf concept was formed. And immediately I actually created one the free website page, one Facebook page, and I started sharing this idea with people. Some reservations I had were that why anybody would go to that much trouble, because I had collected those dry leaves in gunny bags. So I knew it's not a very pleasant task, it's quite laborious task actually. And instead of that, burning those dry leaves was easy, because all I had to do is just put a matchstick in that, and it, being dry, they burn off very easily. So that was a reservation I had, it why anybody would go to this much trouble. But I would I'm happy to say that my assumptions were wrong, that people were ready to do that. And then I realized that burning dry leaves not was not everybody's first choice. When the alternative was offered, they were open to it. And so that's how that BrownLeaf idea, when I got huge response to these messages, I realized that okay, people are willing to go that extra mile. So then we created this WhatsApp group, and through that this exchange started happening. So we have very simple process. So suppose I have dry leaves, we call them leaf donor. So what I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to collect those dry leaves in gunny bags and keep them ready. And then the donor drops message on the group, okay, I have so many gunny bags. Gunny bag is the major we use for this, and contact number and broad area. And the person who wants dry leaves, the leaf taker, so for whom that area is convenient, they respond to that, and then they decide a mutual time, and then picking up those dry leaves is leaf taker's responsibility. And leaf donor has to see that no garbage is mixed with those dry leaves. So that's how it starts. And there is no financial transaction involved, it all happens on the collaborative manner, that somebody has some resource in surplus and somebody wants it. So that's how that exchange takes place.
Yeah, I was not aware about that garden story, that plot thing. I think that makes a lot of sense, because before that, like, I think we also had the same problem, that you don't know whether other people want it or not. Like, and once that clicks, like, it's like a startup only, like, okay, there is a supply and demand chain.
Right.
Interesting. Even in Gandhinagar also, like, we have a lot of neem trees, like where we live. So, like every winter we also see a lot of, just right ahead of my house, Ketul's house as well, I think.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of trees are there, so they just burn it. I have gone and like tried to tell them not to burn it couple of times.
Right.
I think now Ketul will have a better way
Yeah.
to tackle that.
Exactly, like it's like the problem was in front of us all the time. My mom always complained that the ash, when they burn up, we live on a third floor, so it also gets
Mm-hmm.
deposited in our balcony as well sometimes. And that's also a big problem, that if someone is burning just around the corner, some particles of ash deposits on in the balcony. So,
Mm-hmm.
and we tried to fight against it, but I think this is a very well solution. Even they complain that okay, to hum kya kare, matlab, like, where do we put this, matlab.
Exactly. So just asking them not to burn is not sufficient. We have to provide an alternative. So
All right. And I read through a couple of your guides, and I really like the way you narrated the whole part, like the role of dry leaves in the whole ecosystem.
hmm.
Okay. And I like the way where you put in ke, why does trees shed leaves in general?
Yeah, that
Okay.
was.
Yeah. So can you little bit go in detail about that how you
Yeah,
came up with that approach in general to spread an awareness? Like, what is your viewpoint in making people understand?
sure. So basically, going back to that question, like why trees shed leaves in the first place? So in especially in tropical areas, it is the adaptation by the trees to cope with the summer months. So as in summer, there is intense heat and also water levels go down. So there is scarcity of water, and the root system of the trees absorb water. Then it is circulated all throughout the body, and there are small pores present on the leaves that are called stomata. Through the stomata, that water is thrown out of from the tree body. Those stomata are the outlet, or the leaves are the outlet for the water. So in summer months, when there is need to conserve as much as water possible, or to manage whatever is available, so the best strategy trees adopted is to just get rid of those leaves through which the water is thrown out, so that they can manage with whatever amount of water they have. And so that adaptation starts in the winter months itself. So around mid October, typically in India, the leaf fall starts. So it varies from species to species, but it around starts around beginning of the winter. And then deciduous trees are our focus, because deciduous trees are the trees that shed all of their leaves. They become completely leafless for some duration of the year. Other types are evergreen or semi-evergreen trees. So every tree shades leaves, but only depends on the amount of leaf litter. That becomes problem for us is because of deciduous trees, because they shed all their leaves within short duration. Whereas for semi evergreen or evergreen, the leaf fall keeps on going all throughout the year. So not very large leaf litter gets generated in very short duration. So deciduous trees are the trees which have become a challenge for us in the city. And so because people ask me that only deciduous trees, or which leaf is acceptable for brown leaf, so I say that we don't have any discrimination as far as leaves are concerned, but deciduous trees are our main focus because they pose a great challenge for us. And what happens that when trees shades leaves, all the leaves fall. Means what happens in natural setting is that all the leaves fall. They remain around on the soil around the tree all throughout the summer. And when rains arrive, these leaves decompose and they go back to the soil. So that is the circular process in nature. So as you know, in nature, everything is circular. So output of one system goes or serves as input to some other system, and that's why there is no waste, because it goes on and on. But in what has happened in our landscape where humans are there, that we have created linear systems. So we create something, we utilize it, and we throw it away. So this is the point where that waste gets generated. So concept of waste does not exist in nature. So in natural landscape, leaf fall is never a problem. Rather, it is actually way of for the soil to get back those nutrients that has been taken up by the tree, because some proportion of the nutrient that tree has utilized are present in these fallen leaves. And also all throughout the summer, all these leaves that fall, they form a protective layer over the soil. So because of that, sunlight does not reach the soil directly, and so soil is also able to retain moisture. And so whenever, if you are in a forest area, if you just remove dry leaves layer, you will see the soil beneath is moist. It's dark and moist. And whereas if you in urban areas, we see where soil, there is no cover over soil, the soil becomes very hard. And just by looking at it, we know that there is no life left in that soil. Because of this dry leaf layer, soil also gets benefit. It is able to retain whatever moisture is available. Also, then many insects are there which find shelter under these dry leaves. So you will see many eggs and if you observe closely these fallen leaves, there are many insects use those leaves to lay eggs and everything. So they also get shelter from this summer heat. And in rains, the cycle continues, that the leaves are going to go back to the soil. So that's how it happens, and that's why this circular process is there. And it has been going on for ages, and it has started becoming a problem for us in the city in last few years, because we have changed our habitation. Because as you can see, in any city, almost no soil is left. because for this process soil is the vital part where leaves are going to go back in that. But because there are no soil surfaces left, most of the soil is kept under construction, like buildings are there, paver blocks are there, footpaths, roads, and so there is no soil surface left there. And so when leaves fall on this concrete surface or non-soil surface, they are going to decompose anyway, but they cannot go back to the soil and they become that mulch or mulch, and it becomes a inconvenience for us, or aesthetically it's not pleasing that there are heaps of decomposing dry leaves on the concrete surface. And that's why lack of soil and lack of space, because of that this cyclic process has turned almost linear in urban areas, and that's why it has become problem for us. And also aesthetically, as I said, we are not very comfortable with these layers of dry leaves, where it is possible to let the dry leaves just be there, but we aesthetically we are not very open to that idea. And so then a tendency is to just get rid of those dry leaves, then burning seems very easy option. And the second is just dumping it as part of municipal waste. So that is, those two strategies are adopted by people. So then we realize that uh, okay, asking people not to burn is easy, but we have to provide some alternative to burning. And so what we have to do is we have to bring in that cyclicity. So we have to make process cyclic again in city areas. And so how do we do that? Is it won't be exactly like it happens in nature, because we have limitations of space and soil surfaces. So what we can do is then we created two options, that mulching and composting, and third is donation. So donation is also in that same philosophy, but priority wise it is third option. So mulching is what? So what happens in nature, we are going to mimic it in our garden or wherever our premises are. So dry leaves, when they fall, they form a protective layer over the soil. So in urban areas we cannot have dry leaves be there where they have fallen. So what we will do, wherever we are creating a garden, we will utilize those dry leaves to create a layer over the soil, because as the rule of thumb is that soil should never be exposed. So it should cover with either green mulch. Green mulch is grasses, creepers, or if grasses and creepers are not there, because they exist just after monsoon for a few months, so afterwards it should be with brown mulch, that is with dry leaves. And so soil should always be covered, that is rule of thumb. And so we can mimic that in our garden. So wherever we have a plant bed, or even your pots, if you have few pots in the balcony, there also we can practice mulching. So simply take dry leaves, if possible crush them, and just cover the area, soil surface around the plant. So that's mulching. And what happens here, how we are bringing in the cyclicity is that when this layer of dry leaves they decompose, they will go back to the soil. So again that soil to soil principle is followed here. And how mulching helps is it conserves, helps us conserve water. So if you observe that whenever you pour water a plant in the pot, a lot of muddy water actually goes out of the this thing from the bottom of the pot, water goes out. So the water is muddy because it's carrying away the soil from the pot. So with every watering, that plant loses some soil and nutrients. And with mulching, what happens with this layer of dry leaves on top, whenever we water the plant pot, the water, instead of entering the pot with speed, it percolates. So it gradually percolates, and because of that it there is no runoff from the pot. So there is no nutrient leaching from the pot, and others moisture in that remains longer because the water is retained in the pot. So plant roots, what they need for growth is moisture, not water. And so with this mulching layer, we ensure that it moisture is available for plants for a longer duration. And so the mulching helps us conserve water, it helps plant growth. So we can actually and experiment this, we encourage people to do that, that keep two pots, practice mulching in one, keep one as it is, and actually compare the results and see for yourself, not just because we we are claiming that you should do this. Then again, one more point is that soil, as there is carbon in the air in form of carbon dioxide, there is carbon that is present in the soil, that is called soil carbon. And soil also, just like oceans, soil also is very good at carbon sequestration. So if we are able to send this, and dry leaves contain carbon, so the more dry leaves are in the soil gets more carbon, and so there is less carbon dioxide in the air, which actually is the key this point right now. And so the soil is able to absorb lot of carbon. So instead of burning, if we send these dry leaves to the soil, then there is increase in soil carbon. And advantage of soil carbon is soils that are rich in carbon can manage drought and floods both very effectively. So whenever we see the soil carbon is more, the soil is able to absorb more and more water. So from such soils, whenever there is heavy rainfall, then runoff is less and less. And so that is also one more thing. So where people have large premises and lot of dry leaves, we actually encourage them to identify a few spots in the garden where they can just deposit dry leaves and forget about it. So in many societies, there are some areas where there all trees are grown up, and so we don't need to go and maintain those trees. Also, there is not much human activity there. So if one can identify such patches in the society where we can just deposit dry leaves and just forget about it, let rains do their work, just don't do anything, and let that those leaves go back to soil, and let that soil carbon build in the soil. So that way, even societies nowadays, we have seen that heavy rainfall events are increasing, though there is no increase in average rainfall over the monsoon, but the heavy rainfall in short duration, lot of rain is pouring down, and because of that, lot of runoffs happen and lot of flooding happens. So that urban flooding is a very modern term that has come into practice, and we can prevent this urban flooding by creating this such patches of soil rich in carbon. So that is one more thing, and it's a good strategy because we don't have to do anything. So all the work is going to be done by the rains. We have to just deposit dry leaves there. So this was something I created, that I have put it as a blog on my site. So we have patch in our society where we have created this, and there are trees there, all grown trees, and we get fantastic banana every year from those without doing anything, because those dry leaves just go there and we don't need to provide any fertilizers also. So actually that's how we have created it. I have seen that there is no flooding in that area, so it just acts like a sponge absorbing all the water from the surrounding areas. So that is one more advantage of mulching. And we are actually developing that cyclic process in city through mulching. Then second is composting. Again, we are doing the same thing that happens in nature, only we are modifying a few things, and we are fitting that process to fit our convenience. So what happens that when a rains arrive, those leaves decompose, so all the nutrients from them, they dissolve in water and they go back to the soil, and they go back to the soil in the form in which the trees roots can absorb them. So that is the idea. So the soil also gets the nutrients that it has lost, and those nutrients are again available for the tree there. So how we can mimic is that we do composting only, instead of letting leaves fall leaves be where they have fallen and wait for the rains to do the work. What we are going to do, we are going to speed up that process, and also we are going to select a spot which is convenient for us, and there we are going to carry out this process. So that is the modification from what happens in nature. But again, those leaves after they decompose, they become compost. They are going to go back to the soil. So that soil to soil principle is what we are following in composting, only we are making a few changes in that process. And so to speed up the process, then we use some catalyst, which we call culture. And so just like we actually, I people are usually scared of composting. That has been my observation, because many of them start, then they face some problem, and usually one person in the house is very determined, other people are indifferent or opposed to that idea. And if something goes wrong, that there is a stink or there is something or some insects are there, then the people start in the family start complaining, and then the project fails. So I provide them an example analogy that like we make curd in the house, so it is not much different composting. So what we do to make curd, we take milk, we warm it a bit, and then we add a half a spoon of curd to it. So that curd is the culture. So the curd contains bacteria which we add to this warm milk, and so eventually what happens is bacteria multiply and they convert entire milk to curd. So here actually all the hard work of converting milk to curd is done by the bacteria. What we have to do is just ensure that conditions are right for the bacteria to grow, and the condition is that the milk temperature. So we don't take milk from the fridge and put curd into it, so we warm it a bit so that the temperature is just right for the bacteria growth. And that is all we have to do in composting also, that we have to just ensure that conditions are right for those composters, and all the hard work is going to be done by them. And those conditions are what? So we call them ATM, so it's very easy to remember, is aeration, temperature and moisture. And if we ensure this, and thankfully in our country temperature is taken care by the sun itself. Maybe in northern India sometimes in winter if temperature goes down, it will slow down the process, but for majority of areas in our country being in tropical region, we don't have problem with the temperature. Then aeration is something we have to ensure, and moisture is something we have to maintain. So aeration also, then if we have seen the blogs on the way, we have taken care that by design itself we take care of aeration. So what happens, whenever water logging happens in the composting pot, whatever you're utilizing, if water logging happens, all the pockets are filled by water instead of air, so there is no oxygen. And when process happens in absence of oxygen, it turns anaerobic. So there is nothing wrong with anaerobic process, because it's again a natural process, but the output of anaerobic process is methane, and methane has a foul smell. And so that is where majority of projects fail. Whenever that compost pot or pile starts stinking, people get scared, people are appalled by that, and then the project stops. So not letting process go anaerobic is what we have to ensure. And so we suggest that you go for a pot that already has lot of holes, so water logging will be prevented automatically without we having have to take care of it. And so the ideal thing is go for pile composting, where we just create a pile of dry leaves over a soil surface, so that there is a lot of air available, and it's cost effective because we don't have to invest anything. But only problem is that people don't like sight of those dry leaf heaps. Then we encourage them to build a structure, and using pigeon mesh, that is one thing. So again, with pigeon mesh structure we have a lot of holes there, so there is no possibility of water getting logged. And if at all we need to utilize whatever we already have, and if you have a drum or something, then just ensure you create holes in that drum, so that whatever excess water is there, it flows out of that drum. Or start with an earthen pot or something. If you're starting for the very first time, you've never done composting, then start small. If you have an earthen pot, utilize it, because earthen pot is porous, so there is no risk of water getting logged there. So there are few things where we can, by design itself, we can prevent water logging. And if water logging does not happen, then there are less and less chances of process getting anaerobic. Then the second thing is moisture. That moisture is something that we need to provide. If we are using only dry leaves, then we need to actively provide or ensure moisture is there by watering that pile or pot. If kitchen waste is used, then kitchen waste is almost 80% water, so that water will automatically be there. But if you're doing at society level on a very large scale, so maybe enough kitchen waste will not be there, so it will be majority of dry leaves. So they're just like we water our garden, we have to water this pile or that structure, and now we have to ensure there is enough moisture in that. And so that's how we have to, again we here we can reuse the water. So in, especially in summer months, if there is water scarcity, we don't expect people to utilize fresh water, so they can use gray water actually for this purpose. So that from ATM, this aeration and moisture, if we can manage these things, then there is no risk of process going or there is no risk of failure. And again all this compost that we create is going to be utilized in the garden, so it is going to go back to the soil. Only problem is that it will not go exactly from where the tree has shed the leaves, so the soil in there will not get back the nutrients it has lost. So that is a flip side of this. But for so we encourage people that if you have a tree in the premises from which you are using dry leaves, so it's fine that if you cannot have composting there itself, it is fine, you can take the leaves somewhere else where it is convenient to carry out composting. At least donate some part of that compost back to that tree. So just spread that compost around the tree, so that some at least nutrients go back to that soil around that tree. So that is one thing. But again that soil to soil principle is what we have established here, though it is not exactly like it happens in nature. One more thing about composting, I would say, one more thing where composting projects fail is the insects that are present in the compost. And because we don't find them very attractive, and many people are scared of them, so whenever they spot insects, they fear that something has gone wrong, and usually the composting project is abandoned at that point. So the thing is that there are as I said, all the hard work in that composting process is done by the composters. So there are two types of composters. So one are microorganisms, so they are, we don't see them, so we are not even aware that they are there. The microorganisms are chemical decomposers, and insects are mechanical decomposers. So if you consider a dry leaf, then the chemical decomposers cannot do anything to that dry leaf immediately. So they need it to be broken down so that they can chemically digest it. And that breaking of that leaves into smaller pieces is done by mechanical decomposers. And those mechanical decomposers are various insects. There are white grubs, there are black soldier flies, BSF, and various then black roaches are there. So they look like cockroaches, but only dark in color and smaller in size. So all these insects are there which are going to break those leaves or break that organic matter down. And so these mechanical decomposers are the things that make people very uncomfortable. And especially for those black roaches, people think that they will invade their house. And or black soldier flies, sometimes what happens that maggots actually, if the composting unit is in a sunny place, then they come out of the composting looking for shade. So these are some challenges. So first thing that we have to realize that they are doing the work for us and for free actually, and they automatically arrive. Means for culture we have to introduce microorganisms in form of culture like we did for curd. But in case of mechanical decomposers, whenever organic matter is there available for decomposing, they automatically arrive. We don't even need to do anything. So actually it's a boon, means that they are there, and without them this process would have taken a lot longer. So actually they are our helpers. So all we have to is just change our attitude towards them. And regarding these black roaches and domestic cockroaches are totally different. And black roaches are not at all interested, they cannot survive outside compost, so they are not interested in invading our house. For black soldier fly maggots, so again just cover that composting with some newspaper or something, so that they are happy, they are shade loving insects. So if it is too much sunny, they will just come out and look for shade, and they eventually on our floor they die out. So actually they are safe in that compost itself. So just cover the compost so that they get shade and they won't come out. So that is the thing. But just getting used to this, rather if these insects are not there, you should be worried that something is wrong with your composting. So if the insects are there, means everything is going on. And so that is the thing where we have to change our attitude a bit towards them. And again, with these things in mind, composting is a very nice process, and it first harvest when we get now, it's really a very nice feeling to have. So that's what I say, that all the guide that and blogs that I have written, it's about hand holding till that first successful harvest. One that is done, a person is hooked to the process that is there. Only getting that first successful harvest is there where we have to help them. So that's it.
Yeah, right. And you are absolutely right on point that, the first success is the key to success, basically. And and I faced the similar situation when I was in Mumbai. So I was actually working with an organization called Earth 5R, and we were setting up composting units in a large buildings, where the food waste can come in and they get compost. So and we faced a similar problem. People started saying that, oh, flies are yaar, composting band kar do. We are like, nahi, this is where the things are getting good.
Right.
This is where you should accept it. But it's a very well worked out model that we have thought about it, like soil to soil. And interestingly, this is a major thing in general, that soil is not getting back the nutrients that it has to be.
Right.
But also on the similar side, found out that you are planning to run a pilot with the municipal corporation to sort of tackle that
Yeah.
issue, that okay, what happens to the roadside dry leaves. So can you talk about it, like what is the overall pilot, and where are you on that?
Right. Actually, I carried out that pilot in my lane itself, where the municipal corporation person, he sweeps the dry leaves and they just give it to the municipal waste collection. The truck arrives, they give all those dry leaves. Then I actually inquired and I followed that truck and just saw what exactly happened. So a part, very small part of all that waste that is collected is composted at these segregation stations, but large proportion goes to the dumping yard. And there we know what problems are there. When these biodegradable things go to dumping yard, they are anyway going to decompose there. But since the large piles are there, so in the lower layers there is no oxygen, so process turns anaerobic, and there is methane. So there is stink, and methane also, it's inflammable, it starts fires. So at many dump yards we see from time to time there is news about fires that have started there.
And where I'm living, I can I have a huge, like, sort of a hill located from my place.
Uh-huh.
And when I first shifted 3 months back, I was like, uh, how come there is a hill in Noida? Okay. And then I started little bit inquiring, and I asked my neighbors that, why is there a hill in here? So they said, like, that's not a hill, that's a landfill.
My
And I live on 8th floor, and I can see that it is like parallel to 8th floor. So
God.
landfills are like
Right.
crazy
Exactly.
problems in India. Yeah,
Exactly. So it's not fair also that we are sending our trash to somebody. In your case, you are in
yeah,
the doorstep itself. So
right.
yeah, means that is the thing. So I followed that truck. I understood the process from sanitary inspector in a city, and then I realized that large proportion of these leaves are going to go to the dump yard. So then I realized that if means I already had that a pigeon mesh composter setup for the dry leaves that are shed by my tree. And so I said I have more place, so why not divert those leaves from my lane to my premises. And thankfully I got support from the neighbors also, because the process was not creating any problem for anybody. In the corner I had set up that composter, and so I just convinced that person, the sweeper, to just donate those dry leaves to me instead of sending it to the municipal corporation truck. So he was fine with that, and so for 2 years we actually ran that project successfully, where all the leaves from the lane were getting composted in my premises. And then brown leaf takers, because I could not utilize all those dry leaves. I could utilize a large proportion of dry leaves in my terrace garden from my tree. But then I offered that to BrownLeaf members, and many takers were there who were taking away those half composted or dry leaves, intact dry leaves also. And so it was a very nice thing. And actually I realized that when we think about city, we can go, lane can become a unit, a smallest unit. And all that means such composters can be set up at roadside also. The pigeon mesh composter, they are not very costly also, and there is no risk of theft also. Metallic composters can be stolen, but these are not very costly, so they are, people will leave it as it is. And we can actually deposit dry leaves at places. But again, as I said, for municipal waste or curbside leaves, garbage remains a major challenge. Means for me also, that the sweeper and we used to segregate all this. So there used to be wrappers, there used to be food parcels that were just thrown there. So a lot of this domestic waste used to be there in all those dry leaves, because still that perception is there that whenever there is a heap of dry leaves, that some waste is there and just people start dumping garbage in that. So that one is there. But as a model, I created it, and I actually propagated to people that if you want to do something, start with your lane. You don't need to go out somewhere and do this. So all you have to do is convince that municipal corporation person to just divert those dry leaves to composting site. And so there are plots, or there are some vacant areas everywhere, present everywhere in the city. So such things have started in public gardens in Pune. I'm very happy to note that all dry leaves from these public gardens, municipal gardens, they are digested there itself. So such projects have started. Then one more thing now I'm propagating currently is that I'm encouraging people to look for leaf takers. So I realize in Pune we have now created this forum. Then there many people approach me from all across India, from various cities. So I encourage them to create such forums in their city. But then I realized that again, running this such forum, it takes some time. Means we have to devote some time to these activities. We have to administer, we have to manage such forums. So not many people are very open to this idea. But in BrownLeaf itself, what happened that there were instances where there was a leaf person who had a lot of dry leaves available. She was burning them off, and just 2 buildings from her, there was a lady who was creating a terrace garden. She was in need of those dry leaves, and through BrownLeaf forum, they connected and they realized they are almost neighbors. And so such scenarios exist everywhere, because actually leaf takers are not very conspicuous, but if you look around, you will see that many terraces have creepers or climbers peeking out from the terrace top. So actually the leaf takers also exist all across the city. So that has been my experience, and especially in the cities where now terrace gardening is taking root, so we'll see leaf takers are also across the city as leaf donors are. So if we actively look for leaf takers, and if we establish such exchanges. So on BrownLeaf Facebook page, I have created one series where we can actually take care, instead of waiting for somebody to create such a forum and we become part of it. Instead of that, we can on our individual level itself, we can develop some exchange system like this. We can have this leaf taker leaf network in our lane itself actually. So most of the time I have just given some inputs about finding leaf takers in your own area itself, and establish such dialogue and start exchanging dry leaves. So currently I am actually focusing on this, because there are some cities where people have started. In Belgaum, one lady has started this sukha patta from BrownLeaf. So if there is a determined individual in city, such forums will start. But instead of waiting for that, you can actively do that. Means that feeling of helplessness should not be there, that okay, such forum is not there in my city, so what I can do. So you can just actively start on your individual level. You don't need to manage a community of 1,000 people. You can just start a leaf exchange on your level. So that is what I'm doing. And one more thing I wanted to do, means it has been my dream, but somehow it has not been very successful, is I want to connect farmers with these farmers are leaf takers, the organic farmers. So now in Pune city itself, many organic farms are coming out on periphery of the city. So if we can send some proportions, some farmers are already connected with us. So what they do, they bring produce to the city once a week, and while going back, their trucks or vehicles are empty. So while going back, they take those dry leaves from some societies. So we have been successful in connecting with some farmers, but still large proportion of, as I said, the municipal leaves, these are all from private areas that are taken up by the farmers, but still large proportion remains on the public areas in the municipal leaf that we haven't tackle because of this garbage mixing problem. So but that is my dream. If we are able to do that, then nothing like it. So almost no leaf will be burned actually.
That's actually very, you know, a very circular model in general. Like,
Yeah.
that's where different parties could come together and apply this. So while reading one of your guides, I read a very interesting anecdote that I like to stress upon, is that you talked about core team is your litmus test. Okay, when it comes, like, a lot of opinions come in from people and a lot of things come in, and you talk to your core team, and then
Yeah.
you kind of create a frank environment and say, they are able to say to you that, okay, you are doing right or where you are doing wrong, and then you
Correct.
understand that whether that opinion should affect you or not. So I was just wondering, like, who are the people in your core team in general? Like, is Brown team and like an organized community, or there are people who are leaders in general areas, or how does the whole organization kind of works?
Acha. So actually, what said, unlike the river organization that we created as a legal entity, BrownLeaf remains a very informal forum. And the core team, actually, it was automatically formed. The people who took that idea first. So when I circulated this message that, okay, I'm thinking about this and I'm planning on doing this. So the people who responded immediately automatically became my core team members, because they were determined. They did not wait for any validation, because usually what happens when some initiative gets recognition, they people see success, then many people join, and nothing wrong in that. But then the people who do not need anything like this, people who just like the idea, connected with the vision that I had, and even when I had zero followers on Facebook, these are the people who wanted to help me or wanted to join in that effort. So they are the leaders actually, and so they become the core team members automatically, because they we had this shared vision. We were like-minded people, and who automatically came. It was an organic link, I would say. And so these people are there for me. We started in February 2016, and this core team, which I call them, they are there from that almost first day itself. They are with me, and so they become a core team because since I said they themselves are leaders, so we I get lot of advice, lot of guidance from them. So many of them, people who joined at that time, were actually leaf takers, because they were actually doing gardens and creating gardens, and they were in need of these dry leaves. So they immediately connected with the concept. So a few leaf donors were also there, who were utilizing their own leaves, and but they still had surplus. So they were leaf takers and leaf donors both, I would say. And they also connected with the concept, because they did not want to burn those dry leaves. Only thing, they did not know what to do with that, so they immediately related to the concept and joined in. So they are the leaders actually, I would say. And what happens when community grows, no, we many now, these are the first what say people who joined were really taken by the vision. But then people later on, just they hear something about brown leaf. Oh, okay, there is scope of getting rid of dry leaves, so they join in. So eventually they get converted. But so then when many people, this such type of people join in, the community grows fast, then the dialogue reduces a bit, which was there in a smaller group. That dialogue is not there that frequent, and then a lot of issues can crop up. There a lot of ego fights also go on, because there is a lot of dialogue is there. Means a lot of communication happens, not dialogue, I would say. And so the ego fights are there. Groupism, some people also complain about groupism and everything. So there I actually realized that litmus test, as I said, that I had just started a core team member group, separate group, and I just started bouncing ideas of them. So we have brainstorming also, and whenever I see that that there are complaints about somebody, I just sound that to them and then seek their opinion. If they think nothing is wrong, everything is going on, I just ignore those. Because then I realize that negativity affects us much more than positivity. So if I get 10 responses one day that okay, with BrownLeaf is helping people, and I get only one negative response, still that negative response stays with me. So then I realize that it is affecting me. Then I realize I need to create some this sounding board, and that's how that litmus test I said that this core team helps me. And even it helps me whenever they see that there is some problem with the group or there is some communication is decreasing, or they immediately give me feedback. So it's really that is required, and that's why I advise that you create that litmus test, because otherwise a lot of things affect us otherwise.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Also, so like in Pune, you said there are like whole big community that is growing up of leaf donors and leaf takers. Like, are there any other cities where this kind of forums exist? Like, or how is this propagating to outside of Pune, basically?
Right. Actually, what happened? Many people contacted me and they said that if we have such forum in their city, and we did not have, because I realized there has to be some local person involved. I cannot create forums for the cities being in Pune. We whenever people approach me, I encourage them to create such forums. So we have one in Kolhapur, in Bangalore also we have a group, in Hyderabad we have a group, in Belgaum she has taken a lot of efforts and Sukha Patta is gaining a lot of momentum. From Delhi also there were some groups, but again as I said, that setting up such a community, managing that community, it becomes overwhelming for people. And so we started this group, but what happens, many of these groups then they take up that idea. So instead of starting a citywide forum, they take up that idea and they start doing that in their neighborhood. So in Thane we have one lady who has been doing it a lot on her level, and then automatically she starts converting people around her when they see that she is managing it very well. So that way it is happening. Many people in Mumbai, because Mumbai is a very big city, so they realize that creating such a distance becomes a problem. Pune is relatively reachable that way. So they realize that such a Mumbai city-wide BrownLeaf forum is not possible. So they started in their own neighborhood, and it is happening. So that's why actually I wrote that guide, because I realized that it is not possible to propagate that idea physically to everybody. So I just took some time of created that guide, and I get many mails from many people. So that has been a positive development over there compared to when I started in 2016. Now a lot of queries are there for mulching and composting. Initially there used to be queries about how to get rid of dry leaves, but now that tone is changing. I can feel that change, that many people are now asking how to go about composting, how to go about mulching. And when to many people I have sent that guide, they give feedback, and many people are there, which has been a very pleasant surprise for me, that they directly send photos of their first successful harvest. They say that I came across your website, we downloaded the guide and we have utilized it. And so that has been really really rewarding experience. Or some people start the project, then they just share the photo to make sure that everything is fine. So that way I have seen that many people are utilizing that guide. And also one more thing I would like to say, that in 2016 when I started, and as I said that I used to think that burning dry leaves is easy for people, so why anybody would take this trouble. But I got that some people were ready to go that extra mile, but there were some phone calls from people saying that nowadays burning is not very easy. People just start arguing, start shouting at you. And so that is one more positive thing I would say, that maybe the government awareness drives from government and everybody, where we are bombarded with all this, it is working. Because 10 years back then nobody objected to anybody burning dry leaves, because if I'm burning in my premises, it was my problem, nobody else was bothered with that. But now that much awareness has been generated that this air is for everybody to breathe. So even if somebody is burning dry leaves in their premises, he or she is polluting air for all of us. And so that awareness has sunk in. So any passerby can just shout at you and ask you why, or question you why you are burning dry leaves, though you are doing it in your premises. So I'm really happy that whenever I find people saying that burning is not easy anymore, so I'm very happy that that much awareness has at least crept in. So even the action part which is lacking, it's happening now. It is very gradual, I would say. In case of rivers also, we find that even after understanding everything, taking action doesn't happen immediately. It's a very slow process, any positive change, but it is happening, I would say. And in from compared to 2016 when I started, I can see there are more and more queries for mulching and composting instead of just finding ways of getting rid of dry leaves. So that is a positive change, I would say. It's happening. And even the forums like you, where you are propagating such ideas, I think that they are helping. So really means keep up a good work, because you don't immediately see the change, but it is happening, it's percolating.
Right. Is what is your thought process like? Can this model be monetized, and can that be run in a sustainable way, or is it like, is it a slow process gradually that would be hard and steady moving forward?
Yeah, actually, in that I would say, means for BrownLeaf, I decided that I will not monetize it. I will just keep on collaborative basis. But I am all for the business models actually, and we even in BrownLeaf also we encourage many entrepreneurs and many people to come up with solutions. So one of them was manufacturing of shredders, because for dry leaves volume is a challenge. So once it decomposes, it will reduce to a very a small quantity, but to start with managing that volume, and it becomes overwhelming feeling for many people. So if we shred these dry leaves, then volume reduces to almost 1/4 of the original, and also the composting is faster because the already leaf surface area becomes smaller. We encourage within BrownLeaf, there are many engineers or many innovative people are there. So we encourage them come up with shredder ideas. So we have YouTube videos available for that also, where people presented their shredder prototypes, and some of the designs were taken up by people, and so they are now manufacturing them on commercial basis also. Those shredders were because the shredders that are available in the market are very heavy duty shredders, and since the shredders are used only 6 months of the year, people are not very much into investing in that much, because they're very costly shredders, and for households or for small societies we don't need that much heavy duty shredders. So the shredders that were developed by BrownLeaf members are quite small in size. They are easily portable, so one can carry them, and a shredder can be shared by many people nearby. So that was one thing that we started. And then we started encouraging people to come up with business models to manage dry leaves. So as I said, we do it on collaborative basis, but then we realized that somewhere we hit a limit actually. So if somebody takes it as a business one, and there are people in Pune who are doing it, so there are many of them are part of BrownLeaf community. They approach me with the idea that we are doing it. So what they do is, they, for societies where there is very large quantity of leaves are available, they pick up those dry leaves, and then they identified a few takers, or where they shred those leaves and give them to the takers. So that way business models are coming up. And I'm really all for business models, because I think that whenever there is financial feasibility or sustainability is there, then we can think about these sustainability projects actually. But financial sustainability forms a basis for that. So that is one thing where individuals are coming up with business ideas, and some startups are there in Pune itself also. Then other thing is, for scaling it up, I always think that we have to tap into municipal corporation, because they already have a large infrastructure, and they already have a reach that for us it will take a lot of time and efforts to reach that. But so we can tap into their existing system, where I had one idea with this, but we ran into, I will share that also, what problems we ran into. But there are a few organic farmers, it's a cluster on the periphery of Pune, and trucks that go to the dump yard from Pune city. So I approached the waste management in Pune city, Pune Municipal Corporation, and I asked them, if the kilometer wise, if distance doesn't change, then will they be open with the idea of giving that that waste wet waste to the farms instead of dumping it? So they were okay with that. So as far as distance doesn't change, the petrol consumption for them doesn't increase, they were open to that idea. But problem we ran there was that lot of garbage is still mixed with waste. So lot of wrappers or those corners, milk back corners, so such things are there. And then whether segregation became a problem, and then since organic farms are there, then they feared that if these chemicals from this waste get mixed with the soil, then they will lose their organic certification. So that was the challenge we faced, and which was a valid concern. So that is something which I still, but again that goes back to citizens, means there is no segregation, that's why such waste comes in there. It's not actually municipal corporation's fault, but that is something we are still not able to tackle. But for me it remains a very potential idea that using existing resources we can do that. And where I said I got very good response for municipal corporation for this, means they were open to this idea that okay, instead of sending a truck here, if the distance is same, then we can just send a truck here. That was something which they immediately took that idea up. But mixes lack of segregation is proving to be a problem here.
Sure.
And I don't know, at my level I'm not sure how to handle it. So there are some entrepreneurs who are actually collecting wet waste from people, means dry leaves and kitchen waste both. And so they do segregation, so they have people employed for that, and then they create compost and they sell it back. So that is one thing that you just go for privatization, where somebody is there paid to do that job. But again, here also awareness from on point of citizens is necessary. So segregation is not at source is the ideal thing. Actually, it's very easy to implement.
Yeah, true.
Like majority of the sustainability initiatives, I think, suffer because of that only.
Right.
Like we don't put the stuff as segregated as we should.
Yeah, and all you have to do is just store it separately. Actually, it's not much of a challenge, but yeah, there are some initiatives who are tackling this dry waste also, I would say, because dry waste is what gets mixed in the wet waste. So there are people who are collecting and recycling plastic also. So there are quite a few initiatives in Pune city. Some of them they come to your doorstep, they collect dry waste. So again, that is one more incentive for people to separate, store it separately. So that is also happening. But again, as I said, a lot of awareness has to go there. So a few years back, Pune Municipal Corporation has taken a very strict stand, and I admire them for that. That they have said that if the person, when the person comes to collect your trash, and if it is not segregated, they used to refuse to take it. And that actually was, it led to many arguments, many quarrels, many complaints. But I thought it was really good, and that power was with those people actually. So here people me, because nobody likes to be insulted. So when they used to come doorstep and it's not segregated, they used to say that we won't take your trash. So in front of neighbors you lose your face. So actually that kind of thing was created, and people were actually, because of, at least they were scared of that, or they did not want to create a scene, they started segregating. So it was a very good thing. But again, that vote bank politics is such that there's such strict things doesn't happen, or when elections are near, such things are suspended. But for a year or so, Pune Municipal Corporation really did this strict thing, and it really, such things, if every corporation does that, it will be only onus should lie on people doing it at source.
Right. Yeah, even in our city also the same thing happened. They implemented that rule for I think 6 months or 1 year, but then no one was
Right.
doing the segregated thing. Aditi, I'm interested to know like how has it scaled? Like from 2016, I understand like the initiative started. How many exchanges are happening? Like, is it like
Uh,
an everyday thing? How many members are there?
Right. So now in our BrownLeaf group, we have around 700 members. And so it's a mix of this, leaf takers and leaf donors, both are there. In the first year itself, when I started in February 2016, we exchanged some 10,000 gunny bags of dry leaves between these takers and donors. then we take some assessment from the people. So it's not exact number, but then it went on increasing. So in 2017 we had around 50,000 gunny bags, and now we have crossed lakh. I mean that, as I said, the gunny bag is the unit we take for dry leaves, and then it has crossed lakhs. And now, as I said, that many farmers are collecting, so that even they by the truckloads they are taking it away. Then there are some like Millennium. Ketul mentioned that Millennium School is a large leaf taker. We have some groups who are working on greening of hills. So many hills. Pune is actually surrounded by hills. So it's like we are in a saucer surrounded by all hills, and all these hills had become barren. And so many groups are working there to plant trees there, and at least stop soil erosion that happens during heavy rainfall events. So what happens, all these initiatives are voluntary basis. So people work there every Saturday, Sunday, and all throughout the week there is nobody to take care. So there they realize that mulching is becoming really beneficial first, and it increases chances of survival of those saplings where when these people cannot be there in summer months to water the plants. So they do practice mulching a lot, and they are always in need of these dry leaves. And so there are many cities that are sending dry leaves in truckloads to these people. So now many permanent exchanges have happened. Some permanent relationships have taken place where every year these leaf donors send their leaves to these leaf takers. So that way also is, and it goes beyond 1 lakh actually, the gunny bag wise, if you calculate that, and it has been is increasing. So it is taking this thing. So I don't have exact, as I said, numbers, but I have a very good estimate of how much it is happening. And as I said, in many other cities where full-fledged forum did not happen, but these leaf exchanges are going on, or many people also, as I said, they are doing this, downloading the guide and practicing mulching and composting. So that way also many leaves are going back to the soil, which maybe otherwise would have been burnt. So such things are happening a lot now.
That is, the number is very
Right.
inspirational actually. From 10,000 to lakh is really great. Is there any app or something like which people can? I try to like look on the Play Store, but or is it like running on the WhatsApp or some sort of group only? How?
Yeah, for actually, I developed one app for this actually. So in 2017, I developed that app. So people thought that maybe some app would be more convenient. Otherwise, we were using WhatsApp as the communication for, medium for Pune city group. So I developed that app. It was there for Android, but then I realized that maybe lot of apps, we already use lot of apps, so people were not much interested in installing one more app and utilizing it. So though that app was there, people were more comfortable communicating over WhatsApp, where we have this format at how the leaf donor should post a message, how leaf taker should respond. So people continued using that. So eventually I discontinued that app from the Play Store. So that was also a learning, that what people say they want and what they actually want might differ. That was a very good learning for me. But WhatsApp is something that, because we already use WhatsApp for a lot of communication, so using the same app was maybe convenient. Other one is email, where people start some project and they have a lot of to discuss. Many people find it convenient on email. I myself prefer email over WhatsApp, but as a forum, WhatsApp has been a very good. Only thing that they have a limitation of 256 members. So we created eventually 3 BrownLeaf groups. So the communication little bit increases for the administrators, but that is fine. So WhatsApp has been on Facebook also. Many people actually send message on Messenger. So social media, I would say, has been a great helper actually. So I'm able to connect to a lot of people across India because of social media. Otherwise, I cannot imagine how I would have done that.
Like I think this model is so scalable. Like just wondering why is it not already there in the cities? And one very interesting thing I have seen in my own village is that like there are trees nearby the farms, right? Like there are some spaces which are like not the farmland, like where
Right.
they probably park vehicles or the kettles and all those things. But there also whatever leaves that fall down, they will burn it only. Like even in villages also they feel ki they should. So I was just wondering like during the call that I think that model can be replicated in villages also, right? Like near the farms, they can actually like just decompose that leaves instead
Absolutely.
of burning it.
Actually, last year, state government of Maharashtra came up with this idea of Vasundhara project, where they actually contacted many people under that umbrella, and all these sustainability ideas are shared through that forum, where we had a BrownLeaf session also. So there, the focus was on rural areas. So I explained what we do in urban areas and how easy it is to implement same model in rural areas, where, as I said, the problem of space and lack of soil surfaces is at least less compared to urban areas. So they can just deposit leaves and forget about it and let nature take care of it, because since space is available, there is no haste or to speed up the process. So there also we provided some ideas how they can do it, and how from anywhere the leaves, if they are causing any inconvenience, just transport those leaves in the area where they will be utilized in farms and everywhere, and just forget about it. The nature will decompose it at its own pace. And so we actually through that forum we were able to connect to many people in rural areas. So yeah, such initiatives can be, and such idea bank I think we should create that. Okay, we have many such scenarios, so whatever is suitable for you or whatever suits your circumstances, just adapt that. You don't need to do this, or you have to go. So set of, instead of one best practice, I would say we have to collect set of good practices, and so which are acceptable. As I said, for donation, mean mulch, compost, donate, that is the order which we follow in BrownLeaf. So mulching, composting take priority, donation is the last option, because leaves are being transported to some areas and we are depriving that soil of those nutrients. But again, compared to burning, donation is acceptable. So we have to go by that level, because everybody is at different level. We cannot expect the person who is burning dry leaves or dumping them in municipal waste to suddenly do composting. So maybe take little step, go start donating your leaves, then the conversion might happen eventually. So that way we have to develop set of good practices, and maybe even across India there would be many such initiatives that being done. So we can just collect those ideas, have some forum where we can put those ideas, and let people just choose whatever best suits their needs.
Right, right. Yeah, we are also learning like the system level of thinking you have done for this. I think very small nitty-gritties, pros and cons everywhere, identifying that is very important. People usually don't go to that depth, and then the problem starts facing that they can't scale it. I was just curious to know what type of complaints do you get? You mentioned a while back, right? Like you check with the core team in case there are some complaints coming up. So I'm just curious to understand like what like communities face actually in this exchange.
No, see, they're not regarding dry leaves or composting. Those queries are there which are fairly easy to manage, but there are complaints like you might laugh at this, but people say that whenever I post something about my garden, nobody appreciates it, and it
Okay.
happens only in my case. That was.
Got it, got it.
Or there is then accusation of groupism, that okay, only these people respond to when there is query from this some handful of people, all these kind of thing. Then I
Okay.
said, "We boss, we have 256 members in one WhatsApp group." So groupism, yeah, it happens, I'm not denying it, but it happens in small group. For 256 members to conspire against you, they have 255 members have to come together and decide that we are not going to respond to this person. How come it's possible? So there are some queries that that we have to do a lot of counseling also, that we not do not analyze social media too much and do not take it
Uh,
personally. That is something we have to keep on it. So some such queries are there, or sometimes there are some way that BrownLeaf is losing its focus a lot of it. These type of queries are there. Then some are actually genuine queries, where what happens when we started BrownLeaf, people started posting or sharing photos of their garden. and it happened automatically, and it had really positive impact, because when those people are doing it as a way of saying thank you to the leaf donor, because the person who has taken leaves from somebody, they used to post, okay, this is cabbage from my garden, this is cauliflower flower from garden, and it happened because of the dry leaves that were donated to their garden. So they started sharing those photos as a way of thank you, and it really caught on, because for people who were trying to get rid of those dry leaves, for them it was actually instead of just in theory that we were telling them that dry leaves are very very useful, they saw that as a proof that okay, through dry leaves this vegetables and this produce is there. And so many leaf donors, when we lost many of our leaf donors, because they started utilizing their own dry leaves instead of donating them. So that was a positive effect. But then what happened, people then that that thought then doesn't remain at that level. Then some people are there, some members, still we have some members who every day post photos of flowers, then the everyday hibiscus flowers, rose flowers, same flower, or same flower from different angles. So that maturity level sometimes is the problem, and then the group starts gets flooded with this message. Then many people don't like every day why they should have the, okay, you have beautiful roses in your garden, that is fine, but we don't need to see photo of every rose every day. So that way some complaints are there, but I guess that is a part and parcel of every group, not only BrownLeaf. So such things are there. But whenever there is a complaint like this, that where negativity is increasing in the group, or we are losing focus, these are the things that concern me. Then there I sounded off as a litmus paper test with my members, and just to check that that is not happening. Because there we have to be very strict, because whenever we talk about sustainability, the scope is very wide. So anything from A to milk, anything about rivers, everything, it comes under that. And then people think that everything is related, and it is related in nature, everything is connected to everything. But then it doesn't have to be in the discussion of BrownLeaf group. So that is something that we have to have a very strict policy about. So even my other initiative, that Jeevit Nadi I mentioned, I never share messages about rivers on BrownLeaf group, and vice versa. So that is something that we have to have focus of, because since, as I said, everybody is doing some wonderful things, they want to share it, but then group focus has to be maintained. And then in the guide also I have written that that has to be strictly taken, otherwise the group becomes too generic and many people turn away from that. So that sharp focus has to be there, and we need to be strict about that. Many people get hurt by that, I would say, that they think that whatever they have shared is important, or saving forests, saving hills, or saving here. I said, yeah, that is there, but it should not be in the BrownLeaf group. So we have many sustainability WhatsApp groups also in Pune city. So I said just share it there, but now some things have to be there. And so there some I would say hurt feelings or disagreements happen in the group, but that core group helps staying, that they are there to support me, that okay, somewhere you have to be strict and you are correct in doing that. So when it comes from core group, it is reassuring actually.
Thanks a lot for sharing those very ground level issues. I think that's something we don't get to see usually. And maintaining such communities is always a headache, I think, for any company. So
Also, I love like how you connecting the dots. Like not only you're focusing on like the environmental aspect, but you're also focusing on the human resource aspect. And you're also providing counseling. That's how like managing this whole group very holistically, I would say. And also like I remember like when my mom like was into gardening at a young age, then what she used to do was like when she had a huge backyard. So whenever the leaves would fall, she would take that fork like tool, gardening tool, and push it on the sides where the trees were planted, like on the boundary. So I have seen how naturally leaves get decomposed and how they biodegrade and again form like a very essential part of the soil. But like as you mentioned, like now we are living in concrete cities and people don't have like a lot of awareness about it. So how are you going about the awareness part?
So as I said that providing alternative is necessary, and providing that bigger picture is necessary. Means going beyond this, dry leaves are there in my garden and I have problem, and I want to somehow get rid of that. You have to come out that mindset and look at the bigger picture. So as I mentioned about soil carbon, so it is not something that is going to benefit me. If I increase soil carbon, it won't have immediate good impacts or benefits for me, but in the long run it is very necessary. If we want our kids to eat healthy, we have to have those that carbon, or if you don't want our cities to get flooded every year, we have to increase that soil carbon. So somewhere even in case of our other initiative about rivers, we find that a bigger picture is missing. And so I won't say I'm very successful in creating that right now, but my attempt is at that okay, this is immediate inconvenience that you have. Burning will immediately reduce it. Mulching and composting will require some efforts from your side, but that mulching and composting is going to benefit our generations to come. Instant burning is going to increase carbon dioxide in the air. So that thought process has to be there, and I'm not saying I have got solution to that. Even for rivers we are still looking for that. But so one thing I decided that I will focus on kids actually, so where they are still in their formative years and very impressionable mind. So I'm creating various, even in case of river I actually conduct sessions like story of river. For BrownLeaf also I actually modified my this thing story or presentation to talk to kids and open that dialogue with kids. So I conduct many webinars for kids also. There are many groups here who conduct workshop for kids, so I become part of that also, and where I focus on this. So we have to develop that bigger picture from very young mind, and going beyond our immediate convenience or inconvenience, we have to think about that. And because that is one thing that I realized, that maybe ours is the first generation who had to think about this sustainability and everything, and maybe ours is the last generation who can do something about it, because we are standing at such a point. I'm not don't want to create that doomsday scenario, but really means we this now whatever actions we take or we don't take are going to have very large impact on the generations to come. So I feel that a bigger picture should be there, and so in that view we need to see everything, so that maybe immediate inconvenience might not look so when you think about the benefits it's going to provide in the long future. So if you want to our generations to come to have clean air to breathe and good food to build their bodies, then this is something we need to do for our soils and our air actually. That is the thing. So I'm even writing one book. I recently published 2 books for kids. I'm in the process of the next one. It's a BrownLeaf story, and it's completely in story format. The same concept is in story format. So I'm hoping that this will encourage kids and eventually their parents also to have a look at that bigger picture. So I will be
Yeah.
happy. I will share that story with you also. Because now if you look at human history, now we see that humans, if we look at us, we were born with no bodily defenses or no built-in defenses. So whatever we had to do is develop stone tools or develop technology. We had to do it on our own. So that knowledge transfer, collective intelligence is a very vital part of human society, because we are not born with these skills. We have to learn them and transfer them to next generation. So we are very good at collective problem solving. And I feel that instead of just creating that okay everything has come to an end and nothing can happen, then that mindset we can go back and look at our own history, that how far we have come. And okay, from industrial revolution onwards, the our ability of causing impact has increased, and we were not aware of it, that how much impact we are getting. But since now we are realized where we have gone wrong, so we can rectify these problems. And I feel that that positive attitudes should go to kids, not just that okay so humans are bad, or that sometimes that message gets say that humans are doing something really evil. But it's not something that we have been doing purposely. So our ability of causing impact is increased. That's why many things are getting impacted. But we can turn back and we can correct that. And that again I said that we can come together, and that collaborative thing that is there, that through brownleaf I realized that people are ready to help. All you have to do is ask. That is one thing that I have realized, that people are ready to help you, people are ready to work for you for your vision. Only you have to show up every time. So consistency is there, and you have to ask for help wherever necessary, and you get that help. So that has been my experience. So that's why I want to propagate through my books that okay, we can have that collective intelligence and we can turn around a situation. It's not a hopeless situation that as it is portrayed many times.
We have seen a similar kind of hope, like in many of the change makers we have talked, like once you start, people come with you.
I actually marked one of your wordings in there, which is like I wrote it somewhere. Yeah, don't be a lone fighter. It's a recipe for frustration for sure.
No, and no, many times we don't realize it, that all we have to do is ask for help, but that doesn't come to us naturally. But again, in my river project also, I realized that we got help from many people, many unexpected sources actually. So that is something I realized, and really means motivation is something which comes from collaborating with like-minded people. And I would share one thing with you, that a mail from Ketul was very positive for me also. So it's not only one way that okay, when Ketul said that okay, we came across your idea and we liked it, so it was really good for me also. I felt really good that okay, so somebody is there who is taking effort of going to the website and this that. And as I said, he has read a lot of that actually and remembers it. So I'm really feeling nice about it also. So it's two-way actually inspiration, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And we loved having a conversation with you. And especially very thank you for, giving us your time and stretching it like for more minutes. We are very thankful to you in that case. Do you have any messages for our reader that, they would like to know, or somehow we can create a synergy with you and the readers?
Okay, message I would say just that I emphasize that in my blog also, that getting started is the most challenging thing. So just take that first step, I would say, and whatever scale does it, start small, and you can scale up later anytime. But if you want to do mulching, start 2 or 3 pots in your balcony. If you want to start composting, start with a small quantity. And as I said, a lot of help is available. Getting started is what actually it's important or vital, and once you start you will get help from many sources. There are people willing to help, so take that as a always quote this Luther Martin Jr.'s this thing that taking that first step in faith. You don't need to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step in faith. So that is what it applies to many things actually. Be it entrepreneurial things or be it this thing. But yeah, take that first step, and help is always available. And if you're doing anything in case of dry leaves, then I'm always available. I'm just a mail away from you. You are situated anywhere in India, so my website is there already. Resources are there, but if you need any help, I'm always there. Or initiatives like Ketul and Nising are there. So just take that first step. Getting started is most important. Once you start, that momentum helps you. You can do course corrections as you go by, but if you don't start, nothing can happen. So getting started is something which focus on, and just start immediately. Don't keep thinking, because if you look at idea long enough, you will find many problems and many reasons why you should not do it. So start immediately, and that 5-second rule is there. So just immediately start, and you will find help. You will never be helpless or nothing, and don't be ashamed to ask for help. If you, because many a times what happens, people are not even aware that you need help. They are willing to help you, but they should be aware that you need help. So don't be ashamed to ask for help, and you will get help. That is there, and that is advantage of this internet, the connectivity that we have, that our platform or the platform of helpers has so anybody from anywhere in the world can help you with your problems. So that take advantage of that connectivity that we have in our age. So just get started, take that first step. That is what I would say.
Yeah, I like to thank you on behalf of the team as well for giving us your time as well.
Thank you for making me part of your mission, and it was really nice interacting with all three of you.